So here we are at day 70 in AI blogging using Grooveblog, ChatGPT, Koala. And let's go back to the very first post that we wrote and take a look at getting it to rank #1 on Google and how ChatGPT is going to help us with getting that done. If you remember yesterday, back in day 69, we were looking at how can you help me, that being ChatGPT and the plugins that I have enabled, improve my technical SEO on my blog. One of the things it said it could do was finally use the SEO analysis plugin to analyze the competition. Enter the keyword you want to rank for, and the plugin will show the websites that rank in Google for that keyword. Study these websites to understand what they're doing right and use this information to improve your SEO. And that is exactly what we did. But before we do that, let's go into Grooveblog. Let's look at our post. We have a total of 80 posts. And our very first post was a simple trick on how to memorize the planets in order. Going to go ahead and open that editor because we are going to need to add some content based upon the analysis that we are going to get here inside of ChatGPT. So if you remember yesterday in day 69, we left off with recommendations for both SEO or not just SEO or not just technical SEO, but also non-technical aspects of SEO. And that was a really good list and something we need to focus on. But I wanted to move on to that last paragraph and say, great. Now let's take a look at the competition for the keyword, how to memorize the planets, because that is the very first post that we ever wrote, and we can definitely make it better. And here's what happened. It called VoxScript. It's a little odd. VoxScript I thought was for YouTube, but it did the same thing that the other plugins can do in the sense of the fact that it just went out to the internet and pulled down the information, or did a Google and pulled down the information, which are the top 5 competitors for the keyword, how to memorize the planets. It gave me these 5 websites, and then it told me to compete with these pages. You could consider incorporating some of their successful strategies into your own content. Then it said, for example, you could provide multiple methods for remembering the order of the planets, and then it continued on with things that I could add to the post, which of course I could do that, but that is not the point of blogging with AI. So I said, great, now please create some new content to add to my blog post based on their successful strategies. Their successful strategies being the top 5 competitors that our AI assistant found for us, into the content for how to memorize the planets. Absolutely, here's some additional content you can consider adding to your blog post. And you can see here it wrote, based upon the research that it went out and did, the research that the AI and the plugin went out and pulled down from the internet. Here's the content that it wrote for me based upon the strategies or the content and the strategies of the content that those competitors are following. This content is missing from my blog post. So I'm like, perfect. That is awesome. It is so cool that you wrote that content for me, but where do I put it? So then I had a conversation. There was actually a conversation before this one where I asked it, can you advise on where to insert this content into the existing blog post? And it errored out there and it said, I would need the full content. So then I went ahead and I updated that. And then I said, okay, please get the full content of the blog post. And then I gave it the URL again. Again, this is part of the problem when you try to do a lot. Sometimes the AI gets confused, just like any person would. They're confused on what they're doing, where they're at, how much information they have. So I reset it and I said, okay, please get the full content of the blog post from the link here, and then make the recommendation on where to insert this content into the existing post. It pulled down the content. Again, it used VoxScript. Based on the content of your blog post, here's how I recommend incorporating the new content. Understand and remember what I was trying to accomplish here was, where do I put the new content that you've created? Because it gave me new content based upon the recommendations that it made when it analyzed the competition, but I had no idea where to put the content. And then now you can see that it says, here is where I would put memory techniques to remember the planets. This is the existing content. This is the new content, multiple methods to memorize the planets. So here is where I would put the new content in between the existing content. So it'll make sense when you see it here in a second. It's saying memory techniques to remember in the planets, or memory techniques to remember the planets. We'll go ahead and copy that because we're going to search for that. And we want to put this, the new content, after multiple methods to memorize the planets. And of course, it gave me the one below that. So basically where I'm going to squish this in the middle is going to be between memory techniques and basic facts about the planets and their orders. I think I got to where I was trying to get there, although it was a little wordy, but I think you'll understand when you see. When we go to the blog post, we're going to go ahead and search, and you can see that memory techniques to remember the planets is actually the very first paragraph, basically the introduction, and then basic facts about the planets and their order is the second paragraph, or the second H2, and you can see here memory techniques to remember the planets, basic facts about the planets and their order is where we're going to put in the new content as it referenced it here. So then we're going to go up here, and we are simply just going to do like we always do, and we are going to copy this into the clipboard, go back to Grooveblog, and we are simply going to add that content in. Now, of course, we have to get rid of this information here, and then it doesn't understand markup. Hopefully it will someday, that being Grooveblog. It's supposed to be an update. They have recently released an update. It was something about breadcrumbs, but I haven't taken a look at it yet. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to go ahead and we are going to add this in and do the edits real quick. And then we're going to get rid of this because that's not part of the blog post. We're going to go ahead and go back and see what we had here. We had this H2, so these would be H3s. This looks like it's an H2 as well. Those are H2s, and remembering the dwarf planets. So we'll go back to this Grooveblog, and we see here this is an H2. Of course, if I had remembered my markup, I would understand that these are all H2s because they have 2 hashtags. And here we need to edit this, and we'll go ahead and move that over, and then we will make that an H2. This one is an H3. We'll go ahead and make that an H3 right there. Go ahead and make this one an H3. And we'll also add in a carriage return there, and make that one an H3. And then we have our H2 here, multiple methods to memorize the planets, our mnemonics, memory pegs, repetition, the memory palace technique, a one-line poem, and then remembering the dwarf planets. We'll go ahead and click publish. And now that is published, we'll exit that. Then we'll go back to where we started, and you can see what happened here again. We didn't know, or I didn't know where to put the content after it gave me the suggestions. So then I asked it. I just went ahead and said, based on the content, or that's not what I asked. I asked, okay, please get the full content of the blog post. Had to remind it that it already knew it, but it knew where the blog post was, and then make the recommendation on where to insert this content into the blog. It gave me the existing content, and then it told me where to put the new content. And all this started again back on day 69 when I asked the AI, my AI assistant, how can you help me with the plugins that I have enabled to improve my technical SEO of the blog? We learned a lot during this chat, but today in day 70, we were able to look at the very first blog post that we've ever published during this 100-day case study, going all the way back to the first day and looking at the blog post we created. And we took the plugins that we now have that we didn't even have when we started this crazy journey, this crazy 100 days. And we said, or we asked it, how can you help me? And it said the SEO plugins can analyze the competition. And that's exactly what it did. It looked at the top ranking post for that keyword, and it gave me a suggestion for additional content based upon the content that I didn't have in my blog post that shows up in those other blog posts. So now we are well on our way, hopefully, to ranking #1, or at least getting on the first page and getting a few more clicks. If you're having fun, go ahead and click that like button for me. If you got any questions, let me know in the comments. Look forward to seeing you in the next update. I'll talk to you then. Bye.